can you run through your mastering chain, what piece of equipment you use, why you use them, and how you use them? So what I figured I'd do to answer this question for you is basically go tell you which pieces of equipment, first of all, that I run into, and the actual chain that I use. So basically I run through this rack here, then into this rack, then into this rack here, and then into this rack. There's 4 racks, including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pieces of equipment. So first things first, down here I have a pair of Burl B2 bombers, and they are obviously A to D and D to A. So I come out of the converter into the first unit down here, which is the West Audio NG bus comp. Now obviously that is used as my bus compressor. That's a VCA comp, just using it, basically bus compression, beautiful. Works in mid-side, has a mix, it's the perfect bus comp. Next I run into saturation. So I have like this sort of saturation section here which I use. I have the Black Box HG2, and then I also have the Rupert Neve Portico 2. So running into the Black Box, I hit the Black Box and I add lovely warm harmonics in the low end. That's what I purposely use it to beef up the track. I basically hit this section as a way of getting a very digital stale sounding track and turning it into a warmer analog glow. That's what this section's for. I then run into the Portico 2, and they both kind of work in combination with each other. And the Portico 2 gives me, I use that in a unique way with the, I generally use third harmonics, which is the Silk Red. So I use Silk Red a lot to just give it that kind of crispy tops. Also with the Portico 2, I use it as a stereo field edit. I don't necessarily use it as a compressor, so it is used just to bring out the width, bring out the image, and really kind of tailor this image that then can pass into the rest of the chain as like almost like this section here, the NG bus comp, the HG2 and the Portico 2. They're used as basically getting the mix that I receive up to scratch so it can then hit the rest of the mastering chain. Next I go into the Cush Audio Clariphonic EQ. That is used, basically what that is it's all about high shelves, and you can select 2 high shelves, basically give yourself some real good clarity and presence, and then add a lower shelf which is a bit more in the way of the upper mids. Brilliant tool to have. I highly recommend everyone have one of these in your mastering chain. The one above that is the Vertigo VSE2. It's a discrete gyratory EQ, 3 bands. It's got the air band on it, so you can add that presence in the top end, that 40 kilohertz range up top. I use it for basically the top and bottom. I have around 40 hertz or 60 hertz in the low end. I can give that little bit of bump in the bottom end that I need, and then I can add that top end. Sometimes I will add the mid range as well if I need to bring out a snare. It's mainly the body of the snare that I can just pinpoint where I want it, and I can bring out that snare. That as well as a vocal, I can bring out a vocal really nicely with that. It's a very unique EQ in the sense that the more you increase the gain, the more the Q goes like that. So it's a really interesting EQ because it's not like a broad Q where if you increase the gain it's like this. It's very much going like that. So the more you increase it, the tighter the Q gets. Very unique. Every EQ and everything that I have in this chain is very unique and very much for a specific purpose. Next, I run into the Golly Porter Grinder EQ. Very subtle EQ. You would not want this as your only EQ. You can go +6 and you feel like you need more. I personally, I would always say pair it with another EQ because it's not going to be enough just as one EQ. It's going to be that EQ that's going to go, right, I want to just add something. I want to add a little bit of tops, or I want to add a little bit of bottom, and I just want it in a certain area, and you can just go, oh yeah, lovely, and it's smooth. It's really, really smooth. Brilliant EQ. Really, really enjoy that one. Next I go into the Buzz Audio REQ 2.2. Now the Buzz Audio REQ, oh, this is one of the best EQs you will ever hear. It is, I always say, it's smooth like butter, this, and it's basically this EQ that if you ever got your hands on one, started using one, you'd just be like, wow, I have to have this EQ. Basically, we bought one years and years ago. We got one. loved it. It ended up breaking. We had to send it back. We got another one recently. Nick bought one for the mastering studio. I then done a demo on it, and I was like, wow, this thing is next level. I have to have one. So I ordered one, came within a couple of weeks. Beautiful EQ, one of the best you will ever hear. Over here, we then run into the SPL Gemini. Now, the SPL Gemini is it's a very simple tool. What it is a mid-side processor. Processes mid and side, basically turns, well, that's what I use it as. You have on the left side, you can basically get the mid, and you can increase the volume of the mid signal. On the sides, you can increase the volume on the side signal. You also have inserts where you can insert a mid side, basically to create to give an EQ, a compressor, whatever you want, mid side. I then run into, on the inserts, I run into two units. I run into the SPL PQ, which is the perfect combination. So you've got SPL Gemini, SPL PQ, perfectly go together. Then I also, because basically the SPL PQ, I mean, everybody knows what it is, but it's a 5-band EQ, precision EQ. That's why I have it after all my other EQs. Goes down this end of the chain. What it's designed for here is it's for precision EQ. It's for, let's bring out something, let's cut something out, let's too much punch in the snare, let's pull that down, let's kind of design the stereo image on that bass, let's pull some low end, let's duck out some of that. It's for all of that. So it's a very surgical EQ further down the chain. Next, on that same insert, I have what is, and I will say this to anyone, it is the secret. It is the secret sauce that goes in this mastering chain. It is this unbelievable sound that when they're in, the mastering chain is like, wow. When they're out, it's like, hey, it sounds good, but it's only when you get a reference point of on and off that you go, whoa. The Roger Mayer, what are they, 456s? Yeah, Roger Mayer 456 HDs. They are incredible. They're basically tape simulations. So they're simulating the kind of sound of tape. And my God, they are something special. Even more special if you put them in mid-side. You've also got to set them up correctly, right? Because you can drive too hard into them and they don't sound, well, put it this way, they don't sound great in mastering if you're going too hard into them. If you're going very subtle into them and the tape's not kind of cooking too much and there's not too much saturation, they are incredible. But if you're hitting them too hard, perfectly fine in a mix. If you want to process some drums, smash them through it, brilliant. Mastering, you've got to be a bit more subtle with them. The main thing is the center dial, the bias. So you can basically go from left to right, and left being like a bit more dull, and going for more of a tape bump, whereas right goes really bright, really beautiful, really sweet, and they sound incredible. Next after that is the Alicia envelope. Now, this is a very simple tool, really simple. It is basically a transient designer. I don't use the sustain a lot, or rather I don't use it ever when mastering. I use the attack a lot. So it's just used to just pull out those transients. Really, really good, straight before the compressor and limiter, all that section. So next section is the compression and limiting stage. So we go into the SPL iron, which you can see there. Beautiful compressor. The more you go into it, the more, and hit that threshold, the more it compresses. You cannot go wrong with this compressor. You can run any audio source through it and it sounds incredible. Honestly, it's been my go-to compressor for so many years now. You just hit it and everything sounds so good. There's not a great deal to really mention with it. It's one of them things where turn the threshold to where you want it, adjust the attack and release, fire audio into it, get a great sound. It is really that simple. Next is the trusted Golly cross compression EQ. Now this is highly unique, really, really good. It's a really tricky one to explain to people because so basically what we've got is you've got a low shelf, you've got a low and a high. Basically think of it like a multi-band compressor, 2-band compressor, 2 bands of EQ. You've then got the added benefit of cross compression, which basically whatever compression you're applying on this band, cross compresses it to this band, so it goes like that. So whatever's being compressed is being upwards inflected on the higher band. So you can, let's say for argument's sake, on a kick, every time that low end on the kick hits, so you're getting that punch on that hit on the kick, you've got the high end going popping, so you're getting massive amounts of punch rather. Really, really unique, really good. Next after that, another Golly unit is the Golly Dynamic Shelving EQ. Now this is used down the end of the chain basically to control the low end, control the high end. Basically used as more like a de-esser, but not with compression. It's dynamic EQ, so it's basically just doing that, controlling the high end, same with the low end, any bass that's popping up, just controlling it. It's really, really good, highly recommended, and especially at the end of your chain, just to control. Because what the next unit is a limiter. So what we're not, by having the Golly by having the Golly Dynamic EQ before the limiter, what we're doing is we're not making the limiter works as hard, so we're getting that dynamic EQ. Because bear in mind, dynamic EQ is just EQ. It's like riding a gain and just turning the gain down, right? So you're not getting this sucking compression sound or limiting sound, you're getting this kind of riding that gain. It sounds super smooth, really good. Next is the cream of the crop. It is the Hum Audio Lull. Now the Lull is the best limiter you will ever hear. It is incredible. It is the final stage in this chain before it hits the Burl converter to go back in. It's a limiter that sounds, it's a look ahead analog limiter. So Lull stands for look ahead analog limiter. It is incredible. It sounds unbelievable. And then basically it has a stereo widener on it. So basically once you get to the end of the chain, you can adjust that image as well, limit, adjust that image. Beautiful. One of the best limiters you will ever hear. Blows every limiter I have ever tested out of the water, especially the fact that it is a look ahead analog limiter, which is brilliant. Now, last thing we go into is come back into the box and we go through the Burl A to D converter. Now, that is the mastering chain. Now, what I need to do next is maybe later this week I will put together an actual video of me running through this chain and changing each and showing you basically what each piece of equipment does, bypassing certain bits, and show you exactly what each piece does, and it's highly educational. But you know, that's my mastering chain, that's how I use it, that's what each piece is used for. I mean, bear in mind that this mastering chain has been created over the space of, let's say, I mean, I've been building this chain for probably a couple of years. I've actually been building, no, maybe more than that actually. This specific chain, it's probably been building for a couple of years, and I've put stuff in it, I've taken stuff out, I've put stuff in, and gradually what happens is you get to a point where you're actually happy, and now, you know, there's very little, something really, really special has to come out for me to want to take something out and replace it with something else. But this here is our analog mastering chain in Studio B, and yeah, it's an incredible chain. I can get ridiculous results in here. I'm very, very, very fortunate to be working on this every day.